And with that said, hello and welcome to this Free Energy Academy call.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Today is February 4th, and we have a very exciting call for you today. We're going to be doing a presentation on a QEG analysis of what's in the black box, and we'll be discussing WITTS video and some findings that we've done. But before we start and go ahead and do that presentation, James is just going to give us a brief update on where he's getting at with some of his tuning. He's made some discoveries over the last couple of weeks. So I will just turn it over to James and let him give us the updates.
Okay, thanks, Hope. Hi, everybody. Glad you could make it tonight. Yeah, I just wanted to do a quick update on the tuning. We have very interesting call tonight. We're going to present some alternate ways of experimentation with the QEG. I'm going to talk about the QEG a little bit. 2 weeks ago, the last call, I had some kind of a stomach bug, so I couldn't get on. But I wanted to, I'm just going to share my screen for a minute. And I had Hope put up this document last time. On the last call, and it's basically the same document again. Just changed the dates, and most of this information here is the same as when Hope read it 2 weeks ago. So I'll get to the new stuff here. Basically, I've been just tuning as many hours a day as I can get. It's been like 12 to 15 hours a day. So I've added about where are we here? Yeah, I put on about another 50 hours. And it's taking a really long time. So I've been trying to figure out, it's working. It seems to be working. It's tuning. As I mentioned a couple times before, it tunes radially, and it takes the sound waves to get out into the back steel. It takes quite a long time, but this this frequency where we started out, because this is where I found that the spikes on the scope will align. They synchronize at 120 hertz. So I've been using that as my tuning standard. Where I explained before that keeping the spikes motionless on the scope is the way to hold the RPM steady. But what I ran into, I got, like I said, I was tuning at 120 hertz, and I got probably, maybe 70, 75 hours, something like that. I begin to hear another frequency in there. And I talked about this a little bit before. This is a new core, and when I first got it, my main motivation was to just see if I could prove out what the intrinsic resonant frequency of the steel was. And I even called Matt to verify with him that this was new steel that hadn't been tuned on before. Like I say, I got about 70, 75 hours into it. I heard this other frequency. And I heard it at the beginning before I started tuning, and I went to this, or where I thought it was 325 hertz. And that's where I started tuning first at 325. So that 108 hertz on the primary. And I looked at it, and I did see the synchronization spikes at this speed also at 107 hertz, or pardon me, 108 hertz. So I left it there for a while, and the sync signals were weaker at this frequency than they were running at 120 hertz. So I ran it for a while, and there's a group of frequencies. You guys probably noticed if you've done a scan of the frequencies on the QEG. In other words, you know, just spinning the rotor when you first get started. Somebody's got a mic open here. Okay. All right. So I went back to 120 hertz where the sync signals were very strong, and been tuning there. So what it turns out, what happened here is I didn't start doing this properly. I kind of screwed up. What I've actually ended up doing is retuning the machine. When I got 75 hours into it, you can start to hear another frequency that's lower than the 120 hertz that I'm tuning at, and you can hear it very clearly. But like I say, it wasn't at the beginning. It wasn't very clear. I could hear other frequencies when I did the scan with the audio spectrum analyzer, just to see where the frequencies were that the core was generating, the mechanical frequencies. And I did see, I saw a frequency at 324. And so I went to that frequency, and I did see the alignment spikes. Like I said, they were about half of the intensity of running it at 120 hertz. So I went to 120 and decided I was just going to complete it. And what's happening now, I've got about 220 hours on it, and it's really taken a long time, but it's tuning. What is happening now, and the reason I think it's taking so long, is because the frequency that's already in there, that's embedded, is probably the natural frequency of the steel. And I didn't start at the right frequency, but it's working at this frequency. It is working at 120 hertz. It's taken a long time, and I think that's because what I'm doing is retuning it. It probably wouldn't have taken very long. I did a careful analysis yesterday, and the other frequency is actually 428 hertz. So it's 107 hertz on the primary at 3210 RPM. Right now we're running at 3600 RPM for the 120 hertz frequency. But when I'm running at 120 hertz, you can hear both of these frequencies. I can hear the 480 and the 428, and actually there you can hear them. What's happening is, and this is the reason I think it's taking so long, is because it has to push that other frequency out before it can embed itself. So last night I'm listening to it, and I can hear the 428 and the 480 at about the same intensity for a while, but the one that's being driven by the rotor is taken over. So it has to actually push that other frequency out of there, and it's been doing that. I discovered all the time since I started tuning it. It's been doing two things instead of just tuning to the embedded to the intrinsic frequency. It's been retuning to the 460 the 460. Pardon me, 480. It's actually retuning, and I think the 428 was the embedded frequency. But I was so far into it at 460. Pardon me, 480. I was so far into it that I didn't want to stop and go to a different frequency because it would be like starting over. But that might have been wise looking back because it's taken so long. But I wanted to make sure and tell you that it's working, and it's through. The last time when I shut it off, it's pulling up and harmonizing frequencies in layers. Like I explained before, you know, it takes a while for the sound waves to get out to the end, to the back, and I can't imagine that it has very many layers left because it's getting thinner and thinner. You know, you can hear other frequencies in the background that need to be harmonized yet, but I'm not hearing those now. So it seems to be pretty close, and that's where I'm at. What I'd like to do, see, I kind of blew the chance. You know, my idea was to get, when I got the new core, that I would definitely tune at the intrinsic, you know, find the intrinsic frequency for sure, and then tune to it. But it's ended up that I couldn't get a precise frequency for the other resonance that's in there until I was well into it. So I'm actually measuring the other frequency with an audio signal generator. I have it. You know, I can put on the signal generator and set it for 480 hertz, and I can hear that the frequencies match. And when it's running at 360, I changed the frequency, the audio generator to 428, and turn that on while the machine's running. And I actually could match the pitch of the frequency, the frequency that's embedded in there. I matched it up on the audio generator at 428. So I guess what I'd like to do, if somebody could try this out, the only way that I'm pretty sure that this is going to finish. I'm sure it's going to finish at 120 hertz. It's just it has to take the time because it's doing two things about the other frequency and embedding the new frequency at the same time. But I would like to, if one of you guys, the machine, could run it, according to the previous instructions, but at 428 hertz, which is 107 hertz on the primary, and it would be 3210 RPM. If somebody could try this, I think that it's going to finish a lot faster because the frequency's already in there. This frequency was embedded in the steel when I started. I just didn't realize it until it developed after 70, 80 hours of developing. Then I could hear it clearly, and I could hear the pitch of it and measure the pitch. So that's where I'm at. I'm just going to continue with this because it's working. It's not running into any problems. Everything's harmonizing, but it's just taken so long. And, I can hear what it's doing. It's going through those layers, and each one that it harmonizes, it gets louder. Each time it harmonizes, it gets louder, and I can hear this starting to develop. But I have to wait until it pushes out and embeds, pushing out this other frequency and embedding the new one, and that's what's taking the time. I'm going to continue, and if I get a result between now and the next call, I'll definitely post that on the website. And I haven't put the tuning instructions up there yet because I I need to verify that this frequency will go through, and then I'm going to do a new tuning, a complete procedure for doing what I've done. So okay, I'm going to turn it over to Hope and Tivon.
So here we go, guys. We're going in deep. This is in the true spirit of co-development. So while James is working on tuning and discovering frequencies and taking notes on that, we have been discovering some stuff over here as well. So this is going to be a presentation on the QEG black box analysis. But before we start the official presentation, I just want to let you guys know how we came across this. So Tivon and I have been in intensive research over the last 2 weeks or so.
Yes, yeah.
Because we've been making a movie to release about the project, which is going to be coming next week. And in that research, we started discovering a whole bunch of what we feel is extremely important information for the project. So we did the best that we could to put this together in a really nice, crisp presentation so that you guys can see this. And if for some reason you have a bad connection or you've missed this call, don't worry, because we made a really clean, high-quality audio-visual copy of this presentation. It's going to be included in this archive so that you can pause and rewind and replay as much as you need to for your own research and your own study. And in addition to that, the schematic for the new circuit that we are proposing is already uploaded to the Gold members
yes, it is, yeah.
QEG Builders Forum. So you can go grab that there if you're a Gold member. And with that, let's go ahead and start. So let me share my screen. Here we go. And if for some reason the screen, you can't see it too well, just somebody pipe up and let me know. So this is the QEG black box analysis. Here's a brief outline. So we're just going to go through 4 things in this presentation. First, we're going to discuss Tesla circuit principles in general. And then we're going to show the new QEG circuit that we're proposing based on the WITTS QEG. And then also we're going to analyze what's in the boxes in the WITTS video, and then we're going to show what's happening in a WITTS video when they unplug the QEG to self-loop. We did an analysis of that video as well. But first, and this is important, we've discovered 4 principles of a Tesla circuit. Yeah. And the way that this happened was we were researching, well, which of Tesla's designs run with radiant energy, similar to the QEG design, the same basic principles. And we found 4 patents that we're going to run through so that you can see in Tesla's own designs where these 4 principles are, and then you can see how they would apply to the QEG.
Right.
Okay. So the 4 principles is first,
to create high voltage.
Right. And then store high voltage.
And accumulate radiant energy.
And then capture and use radiant energy. Simple enough. Let's take a look at this patent here. This is Tesla's patent, apparatus for producing electrical current of high frequency, number 568180. Here's a side view of the schematic for a closer look. And here's the first principle.
Right, so you see the generator there that creates the high voltage. And then that high voltage goes through a high voltage transformer. And then the energy is stored temporarily in these capacitor banks.
Okay.
And then when that energy is built up, it's then discharged through a switching mechanism or spark gap.
Okay, and that's what accumulates the radiant energy?
At the same time, that also accumulates the radiant energy from the environment.
And brings it into the circuit?
And that radiant energy is what's being used to go through this transformer and power these loads.
Okay, so these are the 4 principles of a Tesla circuit in this particular Tesla device. Let's go on to number 2. Tesla patents apparatus for producing electrical currents of high frequency and potential. Number 568176, and we'll take a look at the schematic on the side for a better look.
Okay, again, you have a high voltage generator source right there. And then the energy is being dumped into a capacitor bank with inductors here. So what you see here is a resonant tank that's building up energy, storing energy. And when that energy is then stored, it then goes through a switching mechanism or rotary spark gap here.
And that's what brings in the radiant energy.
Which also brings in the high frequency radiant energy. which then triggers this transformer there. And the energy then goes into lighting these loads.
Okay, and here's all 4 principles of a Tesla circuit in this one. Here's number 3 of 4. Tesla patents, method for regulating apparatus for producing currents of high frequency, number 568178. On its side.
Okay, right. In this example, you don't see the generator, but you see the 2 lines coming from it, and that's what's being used to power the circuit.
And sometimes Tesla does that. So.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's high voltage coming in there. And we have number 2.
Energy is being stored within the inductor and capacitor, so that's like a resonant tank there. And then that tank, the energy is being discharged through a rotary switching device or spark gap. And that radiant high frequency energy is going through a transformer here to run these loads.
And here are the 4 principles of a Tesla circuit. And before we go on, I just want to check, Jamie, can you tell me if the timing is going okay with clicking? Is it okay? Okay. Great. That's good to know. All right, here's number 4. Tesla patents method of an apparatus for producing currents of high frequency, number 568179.
Right, so you have the high voltage.
Right, here we go, high voltage.
Yeah, high voltage generator.
Okay.
Again, going through like a isolation transformer here. And then the energy is being stored within a capacitor bank that's building up the energy. Then to be fired by a rotary switching device.
Or spark gap.
Spark gap.
Right. Is that spark gap?
It's either or.
Either or, right? Because they're interchangeable.
Yeah, I mean, the point is you're switching that energy when it builds up.
And that's something else that and I've learned a lot too, guys, in the last couple of weeks about how all this stuff works. I've got a crash course here. So spark gaps and switching devices do the same function as far as bringing radiant energy into the circuit in Tesla's.
That's right, because when you switch that energy, then you bring in a broad range of frequencies into the circuit.
Right. And then here's number 4.
And then that's sent through a high voltage transformer being used to run the loads.
And here's the 4 principles of that Tesla device. So while that was repetitive, a little repeating, that's actually the whole point. We wanted to establish that pattern of those 4 principles found in most of Tesla's devices that are of this kind of design, bring in the radiant energy. So now we're going to show you what we're proposing as a new circuit for the QEG. And this is based on those 4 principles that we just saw in Tesla designs, but it's also based on what we believe is the actual circuit that WITTS has in their video. And we're going to just prove out that theory right now. So here's the new circuit. This is a low resolution version of it, I believe, because we have a higher quality one in the academy, and also I've simplified the circuit. So, but yeah, because we use it's the same circuit. We used this one in the movie. We didn't want to put every piece of information on it, but it's it's pretty much here's the circuit. So let's just walk through it real quick. Okay. So there's the QEG with its resonant tank with the energy built up and stored. High voltage, right? And then that energy comes out of the QEG and is stored within a tank of capacitors. Okay. And that's made possible through this switch here, which can be either an electronic switch or a spark gap. Or a spark gap. Right. Yeah, you're shorting the coil on the secondary at intervals. And this is where the radiant energy would be coming into the circuit, as well as over here as well. There's radiant energy coming in. That's right. The high voltage line coming off the tank is also contributing to charging your tank of capacitors, your storage. And then over here. And then over there is another compartment that holds charge to run your load. And what we're going to do, and then it also runs the motor. If you want to self-loop. Yeah, that's it. So here's all 4 components based on the Tesla principles that we just went through. But now we're going to I just put some circles here because in the videos that we're going to show you with WITTS, we believe that there's a couple of boxes. There's 3 small boxes with electronic components. And we're showing you on this schematic here the basic gist of what we believe is in each one of these boxes. So Tivon, can you just explain light box 1, light box 2, and electronics box?
Okay, the thing in common with the WITTS videos, there's 2 of them that was done, is that the general setup is that you have the QEG, and then you have 3 boxes, one of which is an electronic box, which is clearly seen on the front, but then you have 2 light switch boxes. They have the light switch that you push and pull. And basically, there are electronics within that the blue PVC single gang box itself. And so what we've done based on Tesla principles is harmonize what Tesla was trying to do with what we saw in the WITTS video. So whatever
which match up.
Which match up.
Completely match up.
So basically, it's like you'd have to take the Tesla principles and see what would match. Boeing looking at what WITTS was doing within their video as far as everything they had on display, which was the QEG, the electronic box, and 2 boxes that was said by Mr. Timothy that had electronics in them. So based on those principles, we are able to prove out, as you're about to see, what's probably in those boxes.
Okay, so let's move on to the third part of our presentation about, we're going to give you an analysis of what's inside the WITTS video and inside the boxes. And this is actually quite fascinating because Tivon went and searched for what could fit in there. And it's really amazing what he discovered. Okay, so here's the video. There's 2 videos that we're talking about. So both of these original videos will be included in this archive packet so that you can watch these videos on your own for reference, so that you can just go through your own process of looking at them. So what are we looking at? Okay,
so you're just looking at the actual setup of the QEG here. This is the second video. There's an earlier one he did where he had the beard and hat. And that's what you're looking at there.
Okay.
Okay, so this is basically showing, this is one of the boxes of the 3. This is the electronic box. This is the one where you look at the front. Clearly, it looks like there's a footprint there.
Right there.
It looks like of 2 electronic components. That's another view of the box. As you can see, there's a tape that's covering the top of the box that's connected to the light box 1. And also you can see that top metal box looks like it has fins on the side. So for you guys, you probably know that's like a heat sink container of some kind. And again, look at the small form of the box compared to the light box. Look how small it is. Okay. And he's switching, in this video, he's switching if you include the motor, the DC motor to turn it, the QEG, he's switching 2 kilowatts worth of power, but yet the box is that small. So that's clearly not an inverter. It's got to be something simpler than that. I see James laughing over there.
Right there. And the inverter's like that big.
Yeah,
right?
anyone who's looked at a 2 kilowatt inverter, you see how they're like 3.5 times the size of that thing. So, and also an observation, because we freeze frame these things, you see 2 white wires coming from the QEG.
Here we go.
One is obviously doubling back to the winding, but there's another one. It's clearly the high voltage line going right at the back of the electronic box. So it's like, what's that all about?
So that's coming right from the resident tank circuit.
That's coming right, as you can see, clearly.
Right
and that's why it would be thick white. That's insulation around that. You know, in the video, there's other winding wires, and they're not insulated, but these are.
And then, you think about that?
And that's just an extrapolation. That's to show the metal fins. So this thing is small. It's heat sink. You can't fit that many electronics in it. So it's some kind of an electronic switch. So what kind of electronic components do we know of that can switch AC power effortlessly? And that's just another extrapolation that the front looks like you have 2 TO3 or similar packages up against each other at an angle. That's a very common way of laying them out if they're both performing a similar function. And that's just L1 and L2, W1 and W2 is just showing that the similarity of the sizes of the box that we're looking at here.
Now, this might not mean anything to you guys, but I was actually quite impressed when Tivon looked at this and says, "I know that footprint." So I was really excited to see that, because then he found this right here.
Okay, so then to start looking at if you're switching power from something, I assume DC, because the theory we were going here based on what Tesla is doing was storing radiant energy in capacitors. If you want to switch those to your preferred voltage, 60 hertz in the States, 50 hertz in Europe, and so forth, what switches that normally? And normally for that kind of thing, we're looking at SCRs and thyristors. The reason being, it could be MOSFETs too, but SCRs and thyristors, they're just known electronic switches that can switch. And that particular model you see in front of you is a 400 volt, 8 amp thyristor.
So this is what we believe is in the electronics box.
Something is telling these thyristors to turn on and off at a certain rate. And in that case, you don't need to convert any power. You're simply switching it on and off.
Okay, so now we're going to go into an explanation of what we think is in the light boxes, which you said similar components in both light box 1 and 2. They're just in different places on the circuit, so one of them does it over here and the other one does the same thing over there, right?
Yes.
So I'll play this video with no sound while you're talking over it.
Okay, so here what you see is a frozen screenshot of that light box, which is a single gang blue PVC box that would normally go into the wall socket if you're running some electrics into your wall, into your room.
Pretty big.
Yeah, it's fairly big. I think it was like 2.5 by like 3 1/4 by 3.5 inches deep. So basically, what I'm doing here is just showing that, you know, obviously that what you see there is readily available in most found the box. Again, that's a single gang box, and they're all over the place. That's the barcode you see on the side there. You know, so they kind of just threw this together. And I'm just showing another view of the box. It's coming up here in a minute. There we go. Again, that's the box they're using. You can see the dimensions. The depth is 3.5 inches. I'm in the part of the world where everything is metric, so I just converted these units. And the whole purpose of this demonstration is to show, right, based on that space, if you're trying to store something, what size of capacitors can you store?
What can you fit in there? What
can you fit in there with good energy density? And what we found were these flat pack capacitors here. And because it's 230 volts here, but you get the idea. 330 microfarad at 400 volts, that's quite a bit of energy for one of these little flat capacitors. You see the measuring there.
And these have been around for a few decades at least,
yeah,
right?
The patent was in 1970, and they've been around for a while.
They've been available for a while.
But they're still widely used, and they're the only things I see that are that compact with that kind of energy. So then the next thing is, how many of these can you fit within one of those boxes? And by the way, if you were to take the watts or the joule seconds of the amount of energy you need to run that kilowatt of lights, when you do the calculation, this fits perfectly. Now on the CAD, basically we did a CAD of the single gang box, and then of the 4 capacitors that, based on their dimensions, would fit with space left over above it and kind of to the side
to show you what
can fit in these boxes. So 4 of those can fit within one of those boxes.
So that's a lot of storage power in a very small space.
Yes, yeah. And they got 2 of them. And so basically, one is that we think the first light box is to store the initial energy coming off the QEG. And then between the conversion from DC to 50 or 60 hertz onto the light bank at light box 2, there's another switch. Where before you flip the switch to run your lights, there's a capacitor bank that's also needing to charge. So you're taking the energy off the QEG and you're shuttling it from one capacitor bank to another capacitor bank, which is why you need a small electronic switch to handle that.
Right. Now, everything that you just said, we're going to show you. Well, that's actually what you came up with. We drew out the circuit first based on Tesla's work, and then we started watching.
And then we watched the WITTS videos after that, and it seemed to.
So this is our discovery process, is what we're sharing, right? So this is the order that it was revealed to us.
Yeah.
And now we're going to show you in this WITTS video. We're not going to talk too much. We're going to let it play. We slowed it down and we put some captions in certain places because we want to highlight specifically what Timothy is saying in this video about the electronics boxes.
Yes.
And so we'll just let the video speak for itself.
We have been busy in the ministry, world improvement for 19 years. We set up 19 years ago. We developed over 150 different technologies of different kinds. This is one of the machines that we demonstrate today.
Sorry guys, I forgot to mention that the first 2 minutes, he's just kind of talking about a whole bunch of different things, but we didn't want to edit it, so we're just going to let it play. But when we put the words up on the screen, these are the parts we want you to pay attention to. So here we go.
Without extra energy, it has to run itself, and I thought that was impossible. That's what we were all taught. The new paradigm shift is to realize that these things are going on all around. The solar panels are over energy. We even have some that work at night now that are still in the experimental stage. And we've been doing nighttime solar panels for 10 years. But the rest of the world is talking about. Stars give off energy. Everything gives off energy. Matter itself will give off energy. Even the ether field will give off energy if it's stressed correctly. The gravity field, if you want to say it that way. The gravity is one aspect of the ether field, or the dominant energy field. And that will give off energy if it's stressed correctly. So it's literally a field that appears to be neutral, which they define gravity as neutral, they define magnetism as neutral as far as energy out. But if you stress them correctly, you can get it to give off energy. Fantastic. Well, what do we got here? Here we are underneath here. Here we are underneath. Since you're looking at everything here, just take a picture underneath there. Just so we got it, in case somebody wants to see it. I'll just cut it out later side. Let me look underneath this one then. And there we have again. Nothing inside. It's just an empty center block. Okay. And then we have capacitors, light bulbs, very interestingly wound motor, the motor that's turning the larger motor, and the varostat that controls the speed. And we've got a diode bridge there with the heat. Over here we have some electronic components. I can't see them on the video, but basically that basically helps keep it stable and controls the amount of power so that, and even gets it in the right frequency range, because this is a variable frequency generator. But over here, it's 60 cycles, which is what you want, pretty close to 60 cycles. Okay. And it controls the voltage so that the voltage is the same. It's not going up and down, stuff like that. So similar to inverter technology right there. Okay. And you got a bank of capacitors, and you got the load. Basically, that's the parts. And also components are this blue box, that blue box. Okay. So what do we do now? Okay, so we'll start it up. Okay. Let me start it up with regular power. Okay. So you have to plug it in to get it going. On this one, you can use the battery. Okay. You can do that in different ways. So we have the extension cord here. Make sure everything's set right before we turn it on. see blue spots on there. I can still see them. You guys can see this. Wow. See them down here? It's actually, when I touch this, it's on the world. Maybe 3 or 4 miles. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully it lasts through the demo. That's because we built the box. Oh, okay. Hopefully it lasts through the demo. That's some of that exotic energy we're going to have. Okay. Turn the power levels back down. We don't need that much power. Okay. We'll see if we got a light bulb lamp. If we do, we'll switch it over to having it sell. Okay. And if we get a big bag, don't come out of your skin. Okay. This one charge, so you're the next noise like about 10 times louder than what you're on there. Okay. Maybe like a gunshot. Okay. We got power. Okay, now we're on play.
So it is now disconnected.
Yeah.
It's running itself.
Yeah.
It is now a self-sustaining power supply.
Yeah. And let me light up the lights here. I want my shades. Right.
And it hasn't seemed to slow down at all.
Sure. You got that voltage thing with the stabilizer. That's going to keep the voltage in the average.
What's the wattage on those lights?
Right now, we're at lights are at about 900 watts.
900 watts of light bulbs, and it hasn't slowed down at all.
No, it won't slow down. That's old school stuff. Slow down.
So it's running itself and providing power. So it's self-sustaining. Can this be scaled up?
So yeah, we've already done over 20 million watts of power and doing different tests for ourselves.
Now, a device like this, could it be used to run a car, or would it just be used to run a house, or a building, or a factory?
Or you run cars, or you run houses.
So this is old to you.
Yep.
Now, as it's running, can you explain a little bit how this power can be self-sustaining? Is it from that big box of capacitors you have down there?
The capacitors help establish the rest. Those are AC capacitors. The energy, they go to zero. About 100 times a second, they're going to zero. So they're charging and discharging to make an oscillation, a resonant type of oscillation.
So what storage charge you need to keep that motor running?
Those capacitors, best case scenario, you can get the lights to light up for maybe 6 seconds. Best case scenario.
So the secret isn't in that little starter motor down there, and it's not in the capacitor, so it's obviously in that huge motor you've got running in the center.
This and the electronics go with it. This and the electronics go with it. This and the electronics go with it.
Okay.
Okay. We're just going to say a few more things. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat because we can take some questions for now. And like I said, we're going to give you all this so that you can watch it slowly if you want to do that.
With the original clips.
I just wanted to touch on a couple of other things in the video. we forgot to put this in there because we didn't see it till afterwards. But when he was starting what we thought was the distracting conversation in the beginning, he actually made like a joke where he said, "You better take a look at this before it blows up." But we think that if you let it run at that high frequency,
this is before he turned down the.
Then he was actually talking about take a look at it before one of the capacitors that's hidden in the light box blows up, I think is what he was meaning by that. It's just a theory again, right? The other thing is he also said something about how that's old school stuff when you used to have it slowing down. And he was talking about when, it would slow down because there was a pull on it, and a little bit about Lenz's law and back EMF. So I just wanted Tivon to just say a couple things about that.
Well, I mean, for those of you who have QEGs, obviously Jamie knows, when it goes into resonance, you have the lights connected to it, there's a drag on the rotor, which is normal. It's pulling a load on the generator. It's kind of like friction. It's slowing it down, that back EMF. But when WITTS, when Timothy was lighting up the lights, there was no drag on the motor at all, on the secondary, zero drag.
So what's one proposed way of solving the problem of back EMF?
So it goes back along with Tesla's Tesla hairpin circuit when the spark gap was nothing like a switch. But if you go online and you type in coil shorting generator, you're going to get a whole bunch of research done by DIY researchers building their magnetic pulse motors and generators that are shorting out the coils that are collecting the energy from their spinning magnet wheels and all kinds of little generators. What it is your secondaries, you have an electronic switch that's shorting the secondaries once every peak, or sometimes multiple times every time it hits the sine wave at the peak of the positive and the negative. It shorts because at the peaks is when you get the most drag, obviously. That's where there's the most energy at the peaks. So people have made very simple circuits to short the secondary at those moments. And what they've done they realized two things. One, not only is there no back EMF or drag, but the rotor actually speeds up. And two, you introduce a whole bunch of harmonics in your secondary. And those and now the arrangement that these researchers have, again, if you just Google and YouTube coil shorting generators, you'll have a whole bunch of people doing this since I see 2010. And what they've done is they'll take their secondaries, and this is where it goes into the circuit, the schematic you saw earlier, and what Tesla was doing. They'll bridge rectify the secondary, the output, and put it into a capacitor bank. And they found that when they did this shorting across the coils at every peak, there was radiant energy charging the capacitors up to 3.5 times quicker than if they didn't do any coil shorting at all. Yep. So you defeat Lenz's law, and you charge your capacitors much quicker this way.
Now, those videos that you're talking about, there's a couple of great examples, and you just put those up, right?
I just posted them. So the thing with coil shorting, that's another topic on the QEG Builders forum on the website.
Yeah, because as we've been doing this research, we've been finding a lot of these videos with other people's devices trying to get the same concepts to work for them. Yes. So Tivon's been uploading a few of those videos to the Academy so that we can take a look at that as examples.
And these circuits are very simple. They're like literally MOSFETs controlled by a 555 timer and a Hall effect switch, something like that. Really simple electronics that would short the coil quickly.
What?
No.
I think there's someone talking.
Yeah. Val, if you're on, I don't have any ability to mute anybody, so if you could help, that would be great. Okay. Thank you. Just a couple other things. He mentioned in the video, oh no, I'm sorry, okay. He mentioned the video. I just wanted to ask Tivon why he thought the boxes were so small. Because I said, well, why would you have such small little boxes? And you had a really good answer about that.
Well, it's just that, I mean, despite what you saw in the rest of the attic, that actual display of the generator, the motor of the generator, and and the lights, that was a very clean setup.
Right, so it was to show the portability.
The portability. I mean, you can take that and put it anywhere. You can put it in a car, in a boat,
right.
In a cabin somewhere. And yeah, it's very, very clean. So, you know, yeah, it was a good demonstration.
So that was one theory. I mean, there's other theories like, well, maybe it was to hide it, you know.
Well, it's both, yeah.
But it, you know, it could be both. But to show like an investor, like,
yes,
this is, you know, something that's really portable that you can put anywhere. So they tried to put it into the smallest box they possibly could, because the capacitor is a capacitor for the most part, right?
Here's the thing.
You don't have to get those little tiny capacitors to get the same effects, do you?
You don't need to get them. But the thing about those little flat ones, as you recognize, 400 volts at 330 microfarads, just one of those things, that's a lot of energy in a small package. And so the only other alternative are round fat ones. And I looked on eBay, and I mean, you can only fit 2 of those in those boxes, but versus 4 of the others. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Just a couple more things to wrap us up. So just so you guys know, our plans as far as Tivon and I, what we're going to be doing is trying to apply this circuit first to the mini QEG, right? Because that's what we have the ability to do here. So we're going to be running a small crowdfunding campaign, because the mini QEG is built, but it's still sitting in China.
Yeah.
We never got the first crowdfunding campaign fully funded.
Yeah.
So we got it so that it's built.
It's
but
assembled.
It's been sitting in China for over a year.
Yeah.
And Tivon has not been able to receive it because we have not had enough money to get it to us. So we're going to be doing a small crowdfunding campaign for that in the future. Soon as the movie comes out that we're making, we'll launch that crowdfunding campaign. We only need a few $1,000s,
yeah,
and also to build the circuit to apply it to the mini. And Tivon can design the circuit. He can design the switching mechanism that's needed, and anything that works on the mini, we can scale up to apply to the big one. So that's our part of this research that we're going to be applying and trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's just our plan, but it's still in working motion. And to finish us off, one more thing we discovered, which we will probably have to touch on next time because we don't have all the stuff yet, but Tivon actually found some of Tesla's own studies on how to get the harmonics in a resonant tank circuit.
It really is.
Right?
It really comes down to is I was on Facebook. It was one of the Tesla forums. Someone was taking all of Tesla's drawings and notes and diagrams, and he screenshotted all of them. And I'm trying to find it now. But basically, there's one diagram that stuck to me, which was the resonant tank was split into 2. So it's like you took the capacitors and you split it in half. So you had basically one up here, one down there, and there was a line breaking it in half, so that the tank was actually 2. 2 sub-tanks. And then there was a drawing of the graph of the signature that was happening. So you not only had the frequency of the collective resonant tank, which were the 2 capacitors in series, with the inductor, but because you had a copper wire going, basically going in the middle of the inductor, kind of like a center tap, going into and splitting the capacitors in half, you also had a resonant frequency of each separate branch of the capacitor tank, of half the inductor and the capacitor tank. So on the graph, it was like you saw one sine wave, but then you saw another harmonic that was double the frequency, because obviously you're splitting the inductance in half, and you got the capacitors you split in half that way too. So I need to find that drawing now, because I thought I screenshotted that because I thought that was a major find, and that might be something worth.
Yeah, so that'll be coming soon. As soon as we find it, we'll get it up there. But like I said, we've been in intense research and doing lots and lots of deep work over here, and it's time consuming, but we're going as fast as we can. We have a couple of comments here, and one person's saying that we're getting close. So if you'd like to talk later, I'm going to read this. I don't want to say it out loud on the call and recording, but studying the exact patents a year ago. So I'd love to talk to you later.
Yeah, yes, okay. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So we can talk later, and because this is co-development. We're trying to figure this out, right, guys? So somebody wants to know, how high could the power go?
Well, I think the single wire, I'm not sure. Maybe Jamie might have an idea on how high the power can go, but it looks like it's at least matching the load of, it's at least 2 to 3 to 1, so.
Yeah, well, it would depend how much storage you have, right? If you, I think that in that demo, just enough for that load, because if you're doing a demo like that, you want to minimize everything, so it looks like everything's simple and not difficult to put together. So yeah, if you want more capacity, more storage, up to well, I don't know how you would find the upper limit. Probably the same way that I was thinking of finding that with the big QEGs, to just keep adding load until you see something fun. If you can just continue to add load, as long as it stays stable, then that's one way to find how much power output it'll do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think.
And we're also, I mean, just in general, we don't know. We won't know until we get it set up and start doing the tests and everything. But it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It could put out a lot more power than we thought, right?
Yeah.
If you're able to harness that radiant energy and just.
Well, in that video, he had to turn, once it was in resonance, he had to kind of turn it back a bit.
Right.
So I think because after all, you're pumping it from the environment. So, yeah.
So with that, yes, we just want to see us all. Just want to see us all succeed, and absolutely, that's our main goal here. Is whatever we can do to contribute our brain power and our research to this project, so that we can all have as many perspectives as we can to try to get over the line, and so that everybody's investments are all going to work out. You know, I mean, but we actually feel extremely positive about this. We're like super excited. We have it's breathed new life into this for us, you know, and I'm just really excited. And somebody says that we've MacGyvered it brilliant. I used to love that show, MacGyver.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
So we'll see. I mean, we could be wrong, but I hope you guys were able to follow our logic at least, so that you can see what we see. And that's it for now. If anybody has any other questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the chat. And I don't see any. So with that said, we'll say goodbye, and thanks so much everybody for joining us on this call. And the next call that we have coming up is February 18th, and we've got Vasa coming on to talk about his amazing housing project that I think you guys are going to love, the Vasahedron house prototype, right? So he'll be on next time. He's excited to come and join us on the Academy. And with that, I'll say goodbye. I'll stop the recording.
Goodbye, everyone.
Okay.